Now, this story starts the day after I moved into my new home. I had just moved from my apartment, which was in a very bad neighborhood. Lots of bad things happening there. But that's another story. So, I had just moved into my new house, a small 2-bedroom house. The kitchen was right in front of the master bedroom, and the secondary bedroom was right off of the living room. I had my mother and 2 siblings living with me. They took the very large master, while I took the secondary bedroom. Anyways, this encounter took place pretty much late in the night, around 11. Everyone had gone to sleep, so I was pretty excited that I had the house all to myself. I decided that I would do dishes to help out my mother, then play some games on my Xbox for the rest of the night. I walked into the kitchen with my dog, started doing up the dishes. About halfway through them, I began feeling really uneasy. I started thinking that it was just an unexpected anxiety attack, which I get pretty often. So, I didn't really think much of it. I paused and decided that maybe a glass of water would help. While I was sipping my water, I started to hear my dog growling from the living room. I say my dog, but he is really my mother's dog. He is a very, very good guard dog, as in will destroy an intruder in a heartbeat type of guard dog. Anyways, so I heard him growling, a very low, quiet growl. Me being the stupid 17-year-old I am, decided I was going to go see what he was doing. I put down my glass, walked into the living room, where both my puppy and my mother's dog were standing by the front door, their nose in the crack of it. Tiptoeing my way to the door, I listened carefully. All I heard was a faint scratching noise. I just assumed it was a raccoon, or one of the stray cats that frequented our house because we could always leave cat food out for them. I took a peek out the front window, which is located right beside the door, and I didn't see anything. Just the dark yard and porch, illuminated softly by the glow of the streetlight in front of the house. So, I told the dogs to chill out before they woke the family up. After they settled down a bit, I went back to finish up the dishes and think about what games I was going to play. As I was washing a plate, I got that uneasy feeling again. The feeling in the pit of your stomach that just feels like something is very wrong. I tried brushing it off, but it was coming on so strongly. All of a sudden, I got the feeling as though somebody was behind me, staring at me, silently watching me. My uneasy feeling turned scared and then stressful. I was so uneasy that I had whispered to myself, "Something bad is going to happen," and the floor began rumbling, as though somebody was running on it, running it behind me as my back was turned away from the entry to the kitchen. It rumbled hard. The pounding of the footsteps was so loud. I didn't know what to expect, put my hands over my ears to block out the sound. It ran up behind me, and it slammed me into the kitchen counter, leaving a large bruise on my stomach. As soon as it all started, it stopped. Nothing but silence in the small kitchen once again. While checking my stomach, I waited to see if anything else was going to happen, but nothing did. The room falling quiet once again. I started panicking, feeling so scared about what had just happened. Finally getting the courage to turn around. As I did, sighed in relief. My big-eyed pupper was sitting in the doorway, staring up at me. Walking over to her and hugging her, then hooking her up to her leash to take her out before I went to bed. At this point, it was around midnight. I was so scared and exhausted. I just decided that it was the sleep my body was desperately craving, but hadn't received, causing me to think something had happened, when it really did not. Though it doesn't explain the bruise forming on my stomach. I even said to my pupper, Hard to believe that my mind could conjure up something so scary. She was hooked up, and we walked outside onto the porch. Normally, we have 4 baby stray cats that basically live out there, but they were nowhere in sight, so I assumed they took cover over at the neighbor's house. I walked little Pupper into the yard, a little ways away from the side of the house where the kitchen window was. Now, I wasn't in front of the kitchen window. I was at the front of the yard, but I could see the kitchen window from where I stood. Looking down and talking to my pup, telling her what a good girl she is and how beautiful she looked. You know, what all puppy mamas do. She looked up at me, wagged her tail in delight, but then her mood suddenly changed as she then snapped her neck to where the kitchen window was. When I say snapped, I mean she turned her head so fast, I thought for real she was going to break her neck. It startled me, so I naturally took a couple of steps backward, trying to calm down from the scare. I glanced over to where she was looking, just a small quick glance, and to my surprise, I actually saw something. I wasn't expecting to see anything, so I had to double take at the sight of this thing. We both sat and stared, trying to see what it was. It resembled a tall black silhouette, 8 feet tall, a very large chest. I remember the chest so well, because it stuck out so far, like scarily far. The figure looked thin in the face, but quite large in the rest of its body, and it was staring over the large hedge that was in front of our kitchen window. It was staring into the window, like it was waiting, silently, for someone or for something to move inside the house. I'm guessing my dog's eyes finally adjusted to the darkness, because she let out a small woof at the creature. And as soon as she did this, the creature turned his head and stared at me with huge green glowing eyes. My heart sank. The way its eyes were reflecting the light made me instantly think that I was standing in front of a giant 7-foot tall animal. It was silent. No sound. No nothing. I was so focused on the creature that I had failed to realize that the night insects had gone silent as well. There was no noise, except for the static sound of energy coming from the city. I froze while my pupper started barking loudly and violently. What could this be? Am I seeing things? Is this real? I scooped my pup up in my arms, running inside the house, all the while feeling the same pounding and hearing the loud thudding footsteps as the previous encounter that took place an hour prior. I ran so fast that I almost tripped over my own feet. Darting indoors, basically tossing my pooch on the couch, locking the door as fast as I could. Leaning against the door, I listened for whatever it was that chased us in. I also held the door closed, thinking it would actually do something to protect us from that thing. All I could hear was the sound of my heavy breaths coming from running so fast. My dog's barking must have disturbed my family, because my mother came out of her room and saw me holding the door closed. She clearly saw I was distressed and wrapped her arms around me, telling me everything was okay, asking what had happened. I could not get out the story. For some reason, my mind told me not to tell her, because I knew that she would not believe me. So, I made up a story about how one of the neighbors startled me and assured her that I was okay. To this day, she still doesn't know. None of my family does, and I still don't know what that creature was. But I do know one thing. It will haunt my mind for a very long time. This happened to me and a few friends of mine during Halloween in 1999. We were all dressed up to hand out by my Elephant Mountain, a local name for a mountain, that we rode our bikes, then hiked to the top. We had dug a hole for a fire and cleared up the area for the fire. We did it a couple times that year. I mean, we were all 15 to 18, so it was fun. We were having time to relax and watching the skies after midterms. After around 8:30, we began to hear low screaming or moaning, non-sexual moaning that is, like somebody was hurt. So we took out our flashlights to look around, and we couldn't find anything. So we came back and found our camp was messed with. Our chairs were stacked and folded, like a pyramid. We thought one of us did it, and no one confessed. But about 15 or 20 minutes later, we heard what sounded like a rejected Muppet Coyote. It didn't sound quite right. It's like somebody tried to make that sound without knowing what it truly sounded like. We decided to nope it out of there fast, and we drowned out the fire before we left. The following Monday, we were talking at our school, TA. She's Native American, although I don't remember which tribe. She heard us talking about it and held us after class and said be careful around that area. It was a stomping ground of evil spirits. She called her husband's friend to come bless us with sage and other herbs to make us all medicine bags for us. However, I don't think I'll ever want to deal with another skinwalker or evil spirits again.